What the hell do you want, Mr. Chipmunk?
Young hero, you need to make a video on this girl named LtCorbis. She's a 12-year-old YouTube commentator that says really edgy and offensive things.
You know my rules. I don't go after kids.
Oh, come on, everybody else is making videos on LtCorbis. You should do it too.
Oh, so if everybody jumped off a cliff, does that mean you would do it too?
Oh, fuck you, man. You're no fun. Anyways, you need to make a video on LtCorbis. A guy named Sinnoh made a video on LtCorbis. He said that she had a big ego.
What? Sinnoh? You mean the region in the Pokemon games? Come on. You can't be serious with this.
No, I'm not lying. Sinnoh is a real person. Just watch the video and you'll see.
Alright, fine. I'll watch the video, only if you'll just shut up.
1 hour later.
If I do this video, you have to promise we'll never speak of this again.
Oh boy, you're gonna be in for a real treat on this one, young hero. Cue the video.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Examining. This episode is going to be a special treat for you all. Now, I thought long and hard about doing this particular episode. When I started this channel in 2007, one of the rules I set for myself is that I would not go after kids. More specifically, kids that were 12 and under. And the reasoning for this was because, I didn't want to come off as a bully, and I can understand how cruel and toxic the internet is. Kids that are that young don't understand how it is, and it can get rough. So I normally don't go after kids. I've only made an exception to this rule like once when I did a LolCal episode on Super Minecraft Kid. But compare that to most of my LolCal episodes, I was relatively easy on him. There weren't as many jokes. I didn't full out insult the kid because I understood he was a child. And I even implored people to not attack the kid. So normally I don't go after kids, but in this case I had to make an immense exception. I went back and forth on it. And, look, I'm just going to come right out with it. Today, I'm going to be examining LtCorbis. If you don't know who she is a 12-year-old YouTube commentator who makes a lot of edgy and offensive jokes, much like all the other edgy commentators do. Now, before I start, I want to make this abundantly clear. Please do not go after her. Please do not attack her. She is just a child. No matter how egotistical or obnoxious she may seem, and she is pretty egotistical and obnoxious, please remember that she is just a child, and there is no need to attack her or call her names or whatever. That's not the purpose of what this video is going to be about. Just want to make that abundantly clear. And my rationale for doing this video is since she, Sophia, aka LtCorbis, if she wants to do the things that mature adults do, and she wants to be treated like a mature adult, and has the gall to criticize people that are far older than her, then at that point I think she's fair game and thus is open to criticism. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Let's examine LtCorbis. LtCorbis has over 664,892 subscribers. That's actually pretty good. Now you may be thinking, oh shit, she has a lot of subscribers. She's YouTube famous. She must be incredibly talented. She must be incredibly funny. And in a perfect world, the amount of subscribers you have would equate to quality, but sadly, that's not the world we live in. However, LtCorbis is an incredibly funny channel, which hurls out amazingly funny, absolutely hilarious jokes like this. And this.
So I would always watch those videos that are like, how to grow your YouTube channel, 5 easy tips, guaranteed success, cause that's how this shit works.
And this. Oh my god, this is not gonna get any better, isn't it? This is just gonna stay consistently terrible. Oh god, well, fuck it, let's just play the last clip. She has to be funny. There has to be an inclination of humor in her content. Please, YouTube gods, let this be funny, please. Now you may be thinking, wait a minute, I've heard this before, and that's because you have heard this before. LtCorbis doesn't do anything that's drastically different compared to all these other edgy commentators. In fact, she pretty much follows the edgy commentator template to a T. Now, I hear people keep saying, oh, she's different, she's different. Can you believe that a 12-year-old is saying all these edgy, offensive things? And I'm sorry, I just don't see it. Maybe it's just me getting old. To be honest, I'm at the ripe age of 22, so I'm not that old yet, but my taste and sense of humor have definitely matured throughout the years. Maybe if I was 12 or 13 again, maybe I might find this funny. Screw it, I might think it's the funniest thing in the world, but now, it's just, oh god, I just find LtCorbis to be incredibly unfunny. And not just a regular kind of unfunny, I'm talking a leafy kind of unfunny. Her attempts at humor are so awful that I practically ran out of my local Tim Hortons here in Ajax screaming, naked, screaming, George, George, George in the jungle. Now, of course, I didn't do that, but I was pretty heated about it. I was thoroughly unimpressed, and to say that I wasn't a big fan of LtCorbis' humor is an immense understatement, to say the least. Now, listen, I understand that comedy is subjective, and if you like LtCorbis, if you and think her jokes are funny, then hey, more power to you. There's nothing wrong with having that kind of opinion. But subjectively, in my opinion, I find LtCorbis to just be incredibly unfunny. Like, jokes about snorting cocaine, drinking bleach, getting cancer, 9/11, any edgy, offensive joke that you can think of that's been said on the internet recently, she's probably said it. I don't see why you go to LtCorbis as compared to a Pyrocynical or a No Fuckers. At the very least, they're more entertaining and, you know, they're fun to watch at the very least. LtCorbis is just meh. I will say this though, the videos are well made, they're well shot, they're well edited, and they're competently made. That's more than I can say for Leafy, and you can tell that she actually puts some semblance of effort into her content. I'll give her that, even though her content is pretty mediocre at best. And what's even worse, she is a Leafy clone. Or to be more technically accurate, she used to be a Leafy clone. And I'm not just saying that because I think anyone that does commentaries is a ripoff of Leafy. Far from it. She literally used to be a Leafy clone. She started out as an exact copy of Leafy. She was essentially the female Leafy. I'm not kidding. This is not me just making shit up or pulling something out of my ass. She was legitimately a Leafy clone. If you don't believe me, I will play a clip of her one of her earlier videos, and I'll contrast it side by side with the Leafy video. And you can judge for yourself whether or not she was in fact a Leafy clone.
So I just pulled it out of the wrapper and just started rolling it around in my hands for no apparent reason. I was just doing that because it felt nice and it was kind of fun. You know, I'm a retard. I always need things to do with my hands, so I was just rolling it around, warming it up, moistening it up, and it was becoming more and more malleable. And I was starting to round the edges a little bit, and it's starting to resemble more and more of a shit. So my friend stops talking for a second and looks over at what I'm doing, like right when this process starts, and just says, "What the actual fuck are you doing?" And I'm like, "I don't know."
I wanted to make a quick video on a certain topic that's been on my mind in these past few weeks, and that topic is of course mob mentality. See, through every piece of drama that I've seen on YouTube in these past few weeks, every single time one YouTuber disagrees with another YouTuber, that other YouTuber is completely spammed with hate comments, and I'm not talking about shit like, "Your videos suck, I don't like your channel." It's fucking shit like this. "I hope you get cancer. Fucking hang yourself. You should kill yourself." And that's
I want you to keep in mind that this is the same person that called out everybody in the commentary community as being unoriginal and following the same tropes over and over again when she started out being unoriginal by being a Leafy clone, you know? I mean, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, in my personal opinion, to call out other people for being unoriginal when you yourself started out as being unoriginal. Not only is that incredibly hypocritical, but to say that takes a certain level of ego and hubris, and it's quite astonishing that she has the level of ego and hubris that she does, given the fact that she's a child, an adolescent that is running with the fearlessness of youth. But I'll talk more about that later on. My problem with Lieutenant Corbis's humor, first and foremost, is that she tries so hard to be edgy and offensive that it just comes off as cringeworthy. It's just not funny, and the whole novelty of children saying edgy and offensive things has worn off a long time ago. I mean, if you go on YouTube, you can find dozens of videos of kids saying edgy and offensive things. It's not shocking anymore. It's certainly not a new thing, it's just old and tired. Yeah, kids say fuck, kids, make jokes about snorting cocaine, kids make jokes about dicks out for Harambe, kids make edgy and offensive jokes all the time these days. That's the world we live in. It's not any funnier because a 12-year-old says it. Now, I don't mind edgy and offensive humor, provided that it's done right, provided that it's actually funny. It can't be forced. And it certainly can't be done just for the sake of being edgy and offensive, because when you do that, you're not making any sort of grand statement, and you're certainly not funny. You're just being edgy and offensive for the sake of being edgy and offensive, and that's no good. At that point, you're essentially on the same level of Amy Schumer making jokes about her vagina constantly. And if that wasn't bad enough, she employs another old, tired, edgy commentator trope: clickbait. Speaking of which, in the same vein as her edgy commentator counterpart, she uses very obnoxious, clickbaity titles and thumbnails, and her whole channel consists of this. I mean, look at this stuff right here, for example, like The Untold Truth About Looper, or Grand Theft Auto in Real Life 8-Year-Old Edition, and it just goes on and on. How I almost died, apology. By the way, this is not an actual apology, this is just a video of an Indian man riding around on a bicycle, and it just goes on and on and on and on. Now, if any of you know me personally, if you followed my channel for any length of time, you know that I absolutely despise clickbait, and it's one of the absolute worst in terms of clickbait. This channel right here, it's on the same level as Looper, Nicki Swift, Screen Rant, Proto Mario, Leafy is Here, and BuzzFeed combined. It's on that level of obnoxious clickbait, and I don't understand why you need to employ this. Lieutenant Corbis is a channel that's absolutely huge. Why the hell do you need this clickbait? Like, this is just a desperate attempt to get views. I mean, of course, that's what clickbait is, but it's just bugs the living crap out of me. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If you have to use clickbaity titles and thumbnails, you don't have very much confidence in your own videos. And look at this right here. How to grow your YouTube gaming channel in 2016. Fast and easy. Just trust me, Poppy. Oh, God. Let's talk about that for a second, because I have a particular bone to pick with that one. Not only is it clickbaity, but it's entirely misleading. But Zion, how is it misleading? If she's going to be talking about what's prescribed in the title, then it isn't misleading because she's actually talking about what the title describes. Now, at first you may think, wow, how to grow a YouTube gaming channel. She's going to talk about how you grow a YouTube gaming channel, or any YouTube channel for that matter. Well, no, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but that's not actually what the video is about. This is what it's truly about.
I just wanted to know, how do I grow my YouTube channel? Because there's gotta be some kind of secret tip, because that's how this shit works. First of all, you gotta understand that's not how it works. There isn't some one secret tip that'll make you just fucking blow up. That's not... It's common sense, but some people still don't get it through their brain. It's like it goes in one ear and then it just fucking shoots out the other because they really just don't want to listen because they're fucking ignorant. Don't encourage your child to keep doing the shitty behavior that they're doing. If they're making shitty videos or they're making something shitty, don't encourage it. Just tell them it's shit, all right? Or don't be so harsh, but just tell them some honest feedback.
First of all, why would you title your video How to Grow a Gaming Channel on YouTube 2016 when you knew full well that wasn't what you were going to be talking about aside from a few brief mentions? And two, why would you ever think lying to the audience is okay? Audience integrity is important. When they click on a video expecting to hear a tutorial about how to grow a YouTube gaming channel, or any channel for that matter, then it better damn well be a tutorial on a YouTube gaming channel or any other channel. You can't just say, how to grow a YouTube gaming channel 2016, and then talk about something that's completely different. Look, I understand you're a massive YouTube channel, and you gotta get those views up, you gotta keep that sub count up, you gotta continue to grow. I understand that, but why the hell do you have to use this clickbait? Why? I don't understand it. Not only is it obnoxious and completely unnecessary, but it's also incredibly misleading, which is something the YouTube community guidelines heavily frown upon. Don't believe me? Here, let's read the YouTube community guidelines on misleading titles and thumbnails. Everyone hates spam. Don't create misleading descriptions, tags, titles, or thumbnails in order to increase views. It's not okay to post large amounts of untargeted, unwanted, or repetitive content, including comments and private messages. So yeah, they frown upon misleading metadata, spam, and scams. And what falls under misleading metadata? Misleading titles and thumbnails. In fact, if you go to the Learn More tab here, they have an entire section on the kinds of things that are frowned upon in the YouTube community guidelines when it comes to misleading metadata. As you can see here, misleading metadata and misleading or racy thumbnails. And what category does LtCorbis' video fall under? Well, misleading or racy thumbnails. And the punishment is the thumbnail can be removed and the video can just outright be taken down for this, because this kind of thing is not okay. Shit like this deeply frustrates me because there are people out there that are actually abiding by the YouTube community guidelines. They're actually following the rules, and what do they get? Well, they get their channel suspended and they get their videos taken down. But people like LtCorbis, who deliberately misleads viewers by using misleading titles and thumbnails in her videos, and YouTube does nothing. YouTube doesn't care. It's all good. This blatant favoritism disgusts me, but honestly, it's become so prevalent on YouTube in the last few years that it's no longer shocking or surprising. The reason why YouTube is doing this kind of shit is because they've never once turned a profit in the 11 years they've been owned by Google. And that's not a secret either, and I know that may shock and surprise some people, but this is actually true. YouTube has never once been profitable. It's why Google has taken drastic steps lately to make YouTube profitable. It's why the whole demonetization purge happened. It's why YouTube Heroes happened. You know, it's why they'll play blatant favorism towards people like Leafy and LtCorbis and YouTube pranksters who do this kind of obnoxious shit and are blatantly breaking YouTube community guidelines. And even though I don't agree with it, I understand why YouTube is doing it, because from a business point of view, these videos bring in millions upon millions of views, which coincidentally also brings in tons upon tons upon tons of ad revenue. If they were to just get rid of those videos or delete their channels entirely, that's a huge chunk of their revenue gone, and it wouldn't make a good business sense to do it. So YouTube will just kind of look the other way. They'll leave them to their own devices, even if they are breaking their community guidelines, because it would cost them a whole hell of a lot more to just start taking videos down and deleting their channels. It sucks, but really, that's the way that it is. YouTube, first and foremost, is a business, as sad as it is to say that. Now look, I know some people are going to accuse me of, I know I'm going to get comments by people saying, oh, you're just jealous because she has more subscribers than you, because she's YouTube famous and you're not, blah 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 blah. Look, I'm not saying this because she's a bigger channel than me and I'm a smaller channel that can't get views to save his life. No. I'm saying this because it's not okay for channels to mislead viewers, regardless of size. It doesn't matter if a channel is big or small. If they are deliberately going out of their way to mislead viewers with false titles and thumbnails that will make them think they're getting one thing while they'll be getting something completely different entirely, that's wrong, that's not okay, and that needs to be called out. period. Because not only does it take views away from people that actually deserve it, it's obnoxious as fuck, and everybody knows it. I rest my case, let's just move on. A lot of people have called out LtCorbis for her ginormous ego. A lot of people think she's egotistical, and to be honest, that's something I can get behind. She is pretty egotistical, to say the least. But why is she egotistical, you may ask? Well, a few months back, she made a video titled The Cyber Circle Jerk, in which she criticized everybody in the commentary community for their unoriginality, lack of effort, and stagnation. Don't believe me? Here, check out the video for yourself.
It's like these kids have such a need for other people's approval that they'll tap into any type of internet subculture to appear cool to their friends. And of course I use this term loosely because most of these people don't even talk to their friends as much as they just repeat the jokes and phrases to each other that they heard on Leafy and Pyro's channels. Excuse me? It's the internet, Sophia. You're just trying to act like you're better than everyone else 'cause you don't think they're funny. It's just that they're appeasers of everyone and everything until it's okay to be outraged about them. That happened with Pyrocynical. He used to low-key suck Keemstar's dick, saying shit like, yeah, Keemstar has messed up before, it's true, but he's gonna give you the news, no lies, no bias, he'll give it to you 100%, until Grade A Under A made those videos on Keem, and then he jumped on the anti-Keem boat because it was acceptable and everybody else was doing it.
Now, this caused everyone to turn against LtCorbis and say that she was egotistical. And I'm not gonna disagree with that. You can't watch these videos and not think she's an egotistical little shit, because she pretty much is an egotistical little shit. But why is she so egotistical? That's because she's running off the fearlessness of youth. She's 12 years old, on the cusp of 13. She's practically an adolescent. I was an adolescent once. We all were adolescents once. And I think it's safe to say that as adolescents, we can be arrogant little shit sometimes. Because we think we know everything. We think we're better than everybody else. We think we have it all figured out. We think we're ahead of the curve, when in all actuality, we're not ahead of the curve. We don't know everything. We don't have it all figured out. We're still growing and maturing as human beings. And as such, it causes us to say some really dumb shit without really thinking, because, we're kids and we don't really think of what's gonna happen when we say things. We don't really think, of how words affect people and stuff like that. This is just staggering to me. Just the amount of ego this girl has. It's Kanye West levels. And that's not me being hyperbolic. I literally mean that. She has an ego the level of Kanye West. It's quite, staggering. She is essentially the internet version of the 2 Chainz song, I'm different. I'm different. I'm different. I do the same shit as everybody else, but I swear I'm different. I'm sorry I'm being so harsh right now. I'm trying so hard to not tear this kid a new one, but I'm sorry. It has to be said. Now, to be fair, you do have a point. When people go around re-quoting jokes from Leafy and Pyrocynical and spread it over the internet without adding anything original to it or expanding on it, yeah, that can get very annoying, and that is thoroughly unoriginal. I will agree with you on that. But you completely ruin your own point when, again, you started out as being unoriginal. You started out as being a Leafy clone. So you don't have any room to call out anybody for being unoriginal. And second of all, I find it kind of funny how you criticize Pyrocynical for supposedly riding the coattails of Keemstar and then turning his back on him when the whole Keemstar Exposed bandwagon became popular, when you yourself rided Pyrocynical's coattails. But we'll get to that in a second. Now, why did Pyrocynical make a rant against Keemstar, why did he go after him in the first place? 2 reasons. One, Keemstar was falsely accusing Pyro of being a pedophile. He was saying that he was dating an underage French girl, 15, 14 to 13 years old. He kept dropping the age every time when people started to figure out that what he was saying was absolute bullshit. And 2, he was spreading Pyrocynical's face all over the internet without his permission or consent. That's why Pyrocynical came out against Keemstar. And then you try to say that after Grade made his video on Keemstar, that Pyro made a video coming out against Keemstar because it was now socially acceptable. No, that's absolute bullshit. Why? Because iDubbbz was the one that truly started the Keemstar Exposed bandwagon. He made his Content Cop episode on Keemstar in May of last year. And then Pyrocynical made his video a month later, and then Grade made his 2-part video not long after that, and then Leafy made his video not long after that. How do you fuck up the timing and continuity this badly? There's this little thing called, research. And the purpose of research is to research the subject you're going to be ranting about. Because if you end up being wrong, you sound like a moron. Which is what happened here. All of this could have been fixed if you did a little bit of research. But since you're young, since you're running with the fearlessness of youth, and you think you know everything, you think you're better than everybody else, this somehow seemed to slip through the cracks. You somehow seem to forget to actually do research. Which, speaking as a content creator, to me is absolutely inexcusable. Because then you just say a bunch of really dumb shit that's completely untrue. You're essentially spreading misinformation. Now, why do I say that LtCorbis was riding Pyrocynical's coattails? Well, part of the reason why LtCorbis is even YouTube famous in the first place is because both Pyrocynical and Keemstar shouted her out and asked that she gained a massive boost in subscribers. But when she started getting bigger and bigger and bigger, when she started gaining a sizable sub count, she figured out that, she didn't need Pyrocynical anymore. He was dead weight to her, so she pretty much turned her back on him and started talking shit about him and calling him a coward and making all this shit up about him because now it was suddenly convenient to do so because she no longer needed him. Yet you're accusing Pyrocynical of riding Keemstar's coattails and sucking his dick when you were doing the same thing. Hypocritical much? To do that, to accuse someone of doing something when you're doing it yourself is egotistical. It really, really is. And if anything, it makes you come off as a spoiled, entitled little princess. It makes you come off as just an ungrateful dick. I'm sorry. I don't want to be so harsh, but I have to say it makes you come off as an ungrateful dick because if it wasn't for Pyro, and if it wasn't for Keemstar, you certainly wouldn't be as popular as you are today. You wouldn't be YouTube famous. And since you're young, since you think you know everything, since you're running with the fearlessness of youth, you don't understand that burning bridges is not a good idea. I've seen countless YouTubers do this, and it usually never ends up going well. Sure, your unoriginal, edgy, offensive humor may have appeal with your viewers now, but it won't in a few years, and I'm going to explain why. Because they're going to grow up. Their tastes are going to change. Their sense of humor is going to mature. And when they watch your videos in a few years from now, they're going to say, wow, this is not funny. The content lacks substance. It doesn't have anything meaningful to say. The jokes are repetitive. They're unoriginal. And then, slowly but surely, they're going to lose interest. It's going to happen. And when that happens, who's going to stick up for you? Who's going to support you through those hard times? Nobody will, because you've done such a good job at alienating everybody. You've done such a good job at being an egotistical little shit that nobody wants to associate themselves with you. Nobody wants to help you out, and you're pretty much on your own. The same thing happened to Leafy. I mean, seriously, who the hell still talks about Leafy these days? Exactly. You know? And it is truly unfortunate because you do have the potential to do something great. You do have the potential to be a good commentator, but you're squandering it due to your actions, and you don't seem to understand why people are saying you're egotistical. You just assume that people are taking your jokes way too seriously and people are just doing it to spread drama. No, people aren't saying you have a big ego because they're just trying to spread drama or they're taking your jokes too seriously. They're saying that because of what you're presenting in your videos, of how you act towards people. That's why they're saying you have a big ego. And the fact that you don't seem to see it, the fact that you don't seem to realize it, to be honest, in my opinion, is really troubling, and that is the quickest path to irrelevance. Honestly, I'm gonna make a very bold proclamation, but I have to be honest and just say it. I honestly think in a few years, if you keep this shit up, if you keep this behavior up, you're gonna be irrelevant. Because like I said before, people are gonna eventually lose interest. If you don't change and evolve with the times, people are gonna lose interest. And if you keep acting the way that you do, nobody's gonna stick up for you, and eventually, you're gonna be irrelevant. And that's just really the way it is. Alright, let's just score it on the examometer and be done with it. Let's fire up the examometer and give this channel a score. In summary, basically, this channel is plagued by unoriginal, edgy, offensive humor that's horrendously unfunny. LtCorbis has an ego complex the size of Kanye West. The content itself is mediocre and bland at best, and doesn't have any substance or anything meaningful to say. She uses very obnoxious clickbaity titles and thumbnails, as well as using false titles and thumbnails. And overall, she's just, again, very egotistical, arrogant, and from watching these videos, I get the sense she's generally an unpleasant person to be around, to be quite honest. The only thing that saves it from getting a Killer with Fire rating is the fact that the content itself is not completely awful. Sure, it's mediocre and bland, but it's also not on the same level as a Leafy. It's not so awful to the point I want to kill myself, you know, so there you go. If you want an edgy commentator, if that's your kind of style, go subscribe to Pyrocynical, go subscribe to No Fuckers, go subscribe to Wild Spartans, fuck it. Go subscribe to Eric's Chocolate Salty Balls, I don't care, but please, don't subscribe to this channel. It is not worth your time. If anything, this channel is a ginormous waste of time. And I couldn't I recommend it to anybody. So there you go. This examination is over. This is ThatKidDouglas, aka the Unhero, signing out. Deuces, stay frosty and keep it weird. Cue an outro sequence now.